plaintiff, Shayna Hoke, is a tattoo enthusiast who paid the defendant to tattoo her arm. However, she claims as a result of his shoddy work and the fact that he had a chameleon running around his studio, she got an infection. So she's suing for medical expenses, lost wages, and pain and suffering. Defendant Carlos Mendoza says after he gave Shayna her tattoo, the two of them had sex. Carlos claims Shayna did not properly care for her tattoo, and that's what led to the infection. And he's countersuing her today for harassment.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
So I guess I'll just start by saying I'm a big tattoo enthusiast. I've been getting tattoos since I was 18 years old, so it would be like 17 years of getting tattoos. I have over 60 hours of work on my body. At this point, I was working on a full Chicago sleeve because this is where I was born, where I'm from. I've even had artists that I've waited up to a whole year on a waiting list to make sure that I get the right artist for the artwork that I wanted on my body. I was even in a contest to compete for the cover of Ink magazine, which I ended up coming in second place for, right around the time that this occurred. I had came across Carlos, the defendant, on Facebook through other people, maybe just bringing him up or whatever, because I was looking for a new artist. And so I contacted him.
Let me ask you, is it on every part? Well, I see it's not on your hands yet.
No.
Do you intend to put them on your hands or your neck?
No.
Okay, because it always throws me off about what people project both in the future as it relates to the workplace, their career.
Yes.
And as it relates to age.
Right. So most of mine are in places that I can definitely
cover. I know you.
Cover.
That's why I'm just making an observation for the people who have it all the way up to their necks.
Yeah.
All the way down their hands. I'm wondering if they're going to be hired for a job that requires them to interact
with people,
with others.
Yeah.
Because some customers have those type of
judgments.
That's the best way to put it. And secondly, what about when you get like 75? Doesn't it kind of look
Hey, I've seen some older people in pictures and it still looks kind of cool, I think. I don't know.
Okay, don't know. I don't know, but I assume at 75 it might be really wrinkled.
Well, maybe I'll have to check in with you and show you.
Yeah. Call me. No, but you don't have it on your neck. That's the primary part.
All right.
That's like, well, you can't put anything, you can't put sleeves on, and there's no way to cover anything at any time.
Yeah.
Now, if you want them all over your body, fine. When you go in for a professional interview, you don't have it all, it's not showing on the parts that you're going to need to go to work. It's not, you're fine, but all over, and then you got some folks with it on their face. So maybe I'm out of it based on my generation. But go ahead, you connected with him on the internet.
Correct. So I contacted him through Facebook Messenger, kind of conversed with him about what I was looking for and what I was interested in and things like that. He agreed that he would obviously do the tattoo. He said he was booked out for a little bit, but if he had any cancellations before that, then he would get a hold of me and let me know. So maybe a couple weeks later, he did get a spot opened up. So he contacted me. I said, for sure, I'll be there. So I go in, I have all my stuff, like my ideas and things like that of what I wanted to do. He was already tattooing somebody else, so he was finishing up with them. So I decided to, because I always drink when I get my tattoos, which is something I do. I like to have a little shot or whatever to kind of loosen up or whatnot. So I told him I was going to run up to the store to get something to drink, and that when I got back, he should be done with what he was doing. When I got back, he was already done sanitizing everything and resetting up for me, which honestly I thought was kind of weird because it was so quick. And then we started to sit at his desk to do like the stencil work to go on the actual tattoo for my arm. When I was there, his brother was like, hey, you ever seen one of these? You want to see it eat? And it was a chameleon that he had inside the tattoo shop. And I said, oh, that thing is really cool. Like, it has super bright colors. Actually, if you go to page 14, I have a picture of it in there. So I watched him eat and all that stuff. He was so cool. I was like, can I hold it? So I held it, and I was, holding it, playing with it, whatever, just taking the time to kind of look at it because I never seen nothing like that. When I was done, I definitely went to the restroom and washed my hands. I go back, I'm sitting at the desk with Carlos, and we're going over everything, but now the lizard is on the desk where he's doing my stencil work for my tattoo that's going to be placed on my arm. At the time, I didn't really think about it that way until, obviously, I got the infection.
Before that, let me allow him to give some background.
Well, Your Honor, my name is Carlos Mendoza. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I'm an established artist. I've been
Where's the shop?
It's over on Cherokee Street, Denver.
Still to come, a Judge Mathis DNA case.
I knew I had two brothers and sisters from my mother, but at my father's funeral, my oldest brother, who got murdered, told me that I had other siblings. And he pointed them out to me at the funeral and said they were my siblings. So him and actually Raheem got very close.
And coming up,
We're both having some drinks and stuff. We're kind of being flirtatious. We're going back and forth. We do the tattoo.
She's being flirtatious with you?
Both of us. I have to take responsibility.
How old are you?
I'm 40, Your Honor.
You're too young for her. You heard her say she thinks that 75-year-old men with wrinkled tattoos on their neck are sexy.
I grew up in Detroit, and I'm proud of where I come from. It's a tough city, but there's a lot of love here. And I carry that tough love with me as a judge. And I still keep it real, hearing real cases with real people from my courtroom in Chicago. I'm Judge Mathis.
I've seen some older people in pictures, and
cool.
it
It's
still
all right?
looks kind of cool, I think. I don't
Okay,
know.
don't know. I don't know, but I assume at 75 it might be really wrinkled.
Well, maybe I'll have to check in with you and show you.
Yeah.
plaintiff Shayna Hoke says while getting a tattoo from the defendant, he had a chameleon running around his studio. And as a result, Shayna's tattoo got infected, so she's suing.
Outside of downtown.
Yeah, right outside of downtown. I have
lot
a
of
private
shops
shop.
downtown.
There's a lot right there, yes.
Y'all gave downtown to the tattoo and weed shops.
Yeah, exactly.
Last time I was there, that was all in downtown.
That's right
up
there.
and down Colfax. Y'all got them up and down Colfax Avenue.
Yes. Well, I've been tattooing for 20 years. I do art classes, I teach. So she contacts me for the tattoo, and like I explained to her, I have a very busy schedule. I'm booked out about 6 months. I got her in early to do her tattoo. We ended up doing the tattoo as we're tattooing. She was doing a lot of these things with the chameleon and all that. Every time, she would like touch the tattoo while we were tattooing, I would have to tell her to stop,
Why?
Just because when you touch the tattoo as you're tattooing, it's adding bacteria to
How
the
many
tattoo.
times did you have to tell her that?
A few times.
That's not
maybe
true.
3 or 4 times.
Never told you that?
No.
Did you ever?
And I never even touched it either. I mean, there was times when I would point at it and I'd be like, look, you can still, because there was an outline that was already previously there. And he decided to go bigger because he thought it would be placed better if I made it bigger than the small outline that I already had done. So
Your
a
Honor,
couple
it was
times
a
I had
cover-up.
pointed and I said, look, I can still see that. And he was like, well, that's something that we'll have to go back
Did it
over
once?
later.
You only did it once?
That's the only time I can think of, and I never actually touched it.
Go ahead, sir.
Anyway, you could look at her tattoo. I have pictures of it, 17 through 20 on the evidence. So we're doing the tattoo, Your Honor, and we're both having some drinks and stuff. We're kind of being flirtatious. We're going back and forth. We do the tattoo.
She's being flirtatious with you?
Both of us. I have to take responsibility.
How old are you?
I'm 40, Your Honor.
You're too young for her. You heard her say she thinks that 75-year-old men with wrinkled tattoos on their neck are sexy. Yeah, something like that. I like them. Something. Then you say that?
Yeah, sure.
All right,
you're-
you say yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry,
oh, yeah. Ooh, ah.
Well, we finished the tattoo, and I was like, you can see from the photos, they look amazing. The tattoo came out great, you know. So after that, after the tattoo,
Y'all were flirting. Let's go back to
yeah. So we were flirting a little bit after the tattoo. You know, she paid me. She left. I cleaned up. I took about 30 minutes to clean up the shop. Locked up the shop, walked outside, and she was back sleeping in her car in my parking lot. So I was like, what the heck? I went and woke her up, and I was like...
I wasn't sleeping, Your Honor. I was actually getting ready to call an Uber because I had been drinking.
She was
so
sleeping,
I didn't want
Your
to
Honor.
drive.
Okay.
She was sleeping. She was too drunk to drive. So I asked her, do you want me to call you an Uber or take you home? And she was like, no, it's okay. I'll be fine. So I had to like shake her to wake her up, and then she goes, oh, I want to go home with you. So I was like, okay. So I took her to my house. You know, we kind of hooked up. You know, we kind of hooked up. Well, we did hook up.
You had sex?
Yes, Your Honor.
If we did, I don't remember.
We did, Your Honor. Your Honor, there's text messages where she's saying that has nothing to do with the case later on throughout the text.
I said, okay. I'm not.
So anyway,
okay.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
So we wake up. I call her an Uber home or an Uber back to the shop so she could pick up her car. She leaves. I go throughout my day, you know, and I text her like, how's your tattoo doing? You know, she's like, oh, it's great. I love it, you know. And there's proof in the text messages.
That's actually not the truth because if you look at the text
I'll
messages.
let him finish, ma'am. Then you can tell me that.
On page 45, Your Honor, you can see where she says how much she loves her tattoo. Okay. So she's going through.
Now, what did you want to show me?
So actually, he texted me. He said, good morning. How are you?
What page is that?
This is going to be page 25. Mm-hmm. This is literally the next morning after the tattoo. He said, how's your tattoo? I said, it's good. It hurts in the crease. On page 26, then I said, I'm okay. My tattoo hurts pretty bad. Parts of it are nasty looking, and there's pus coming out of them. And that was literally the day after my tattoo.
Sir, so why would you show me this?
Well, because, Your Honor...
This seems misleading, knowing that after she said, okay, the day of or the next day, within 24 hours, she's telling you it hurts and that she's worried. Yet you presented this to me as if she was satisfied with the tattoo, knowing what she said the next day. So I now believe you're trying to deceive me, but you can continue with your testimony.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not trying to deceive you. I just wanted to point out the fact that after that statement, she stated that she was standing in the sun. Mm-hmm. At the DMV, and when you're standing in the sun, Your Honor, the sun will literally cook your tattoo like some bacon.
I was actually standing underneath an awning. There's like post and there's a cement.
Let me get back to her now, and let's start with right after you finish getting the tattoo. If you don't want to go over what you did after that, fine, we'll move on. But the next morning.
Yeah, because I don't think that's relevant to what's going on.
The next morning.
I would like to show the video of my actual tattoo, of the infection that I presented.
Okay, first tell me.
So pretty much, I texted him that it had pus coming out of it. Mm-hmm. He informs me that I should put peroxide on it, which I come to find out is the absolute worst thing that you can do to a tattoo that is infected or healing. Because
where did you find that out?
So I actually went and saw another tattoo artist who is very good at doing cover-up work and repairs. When he saw my tattoo, he said, oh my God, what did he do? Like, it literally looks like he meat grinded your arm. There's so much scarring. There's so much, and the tissue is so thin now. It's gonna be too hard for me to fix this. That's when he informed me, like, you should have never put peroxide because it actually slows the healing process and kills the skin.
We kind of hooked up. You know, we kind of hooked up. Well, we did hook up.
You had sex?
Yes, Your Honor.
If we did, I don't remember.
We did, Your Honor.
Plaintiff Shayna Hoke says while getting a tattoo from the defendant, he had a chameleon running around his studio. And as a result, Shayna's tattoo got infected, so she's suing.
Okay, let's look at what you want to show me.
Your Honor, this is from standing outside in the sun.
No, it's not. It's MRSA infection.
Well, we're going to see. She's got evidence. And you went to the hospital?
Yes, I did.
How long after?
So I ended up going to the urgent care. I believe it was 2 days after I spoke with him in the text messages. Actually, it probably was the day after those texts.
What did they diagnose?
So at first they diagnosed me with cellulitis, which is just like a bacteria being introduced to the tattoo that they believed came from the actual shop with how quickly it had attached itself to the arm. So then they put me on an antibiotic, gave me a tetanus shot, and did testing for hepatitis and things like that, but they said it was probably too early for that to show up. So then I went home, I had the antibiotics, and it just continued to get worse.
What page do you have any doctors'
If you go
reports
to,
Well,
so the doctor's things, medical bills are gonna be page 15 to 19. So page 15 should be the visit to the urgent care where I was seen at. There was actually 3 dates of service at the urgent care, and then finally the infection just continually got worse. The urgent care on the second trip advised me I should probably go be seen at the emergency room because they couldn't find an antibiotic that would work. I literally had to take 5 different antibiotics, and it just continued to travel up my arm and eat through my skin.
They diagnosed it as MRSA, which
Yeah.
is deadly, by the way.
Yeah. I actually started to get arthritis pain in my elbow and in my joint and my
on the
finger.
infection.
Yeah.
And he says it's the sun.
No,
you
Your
ever
Honor.
heard of the sun giving you MRSA?
No,
you have
sir.
some insight? You've been doing tattoos how long? I mean, you talk real big.
No,
how
Your
long
Honor.
have you been doing tattoos?
20 years, Your Honor.
All right, and you've seen people who have ruined it in the sun before?
Your Honor, this was not a case.
I'm not talking about that. I'm asking you a professional question from your 20 years
Yes,
of
sir.
experience. Have you had people who come back with infections that it was verified to have come from the sun?
Well, yes, Your Honor. Not only the sun, but multiple other things also.
Okay. Have you ever heard of MRSA
Yes, sir.
coming from a tattoo infection?
Not in all my 20 years, I've never had it happen to me, Your Honor.
You heard of it, sir.
I've heard of it, yes, sir.
All right. And that's what the doctor said was the problem with her. What's your counterclaim for?
Well, Your Honor, this is just pretty much a case of
Sir,
negligence.
I'm not going to let you sit here, give this woman a deadly bacteria because you got a lizard floating around, and then you come in here talking about it's the sun. The doctor is very clear. What's your counterclaim for, sir?
Well, Your Honor, my counterclaim is for harassment and also slander. But also, when she was taking care of her tattoo, she was neglecting the aftercare. I noticed on
You
social
got
media.
MRSA, sir. You keep referring to the tattoo and what happened. Your claim is dismissed. You have not proven your counterclaim. I gave you an opportunity. Instead, you went back to talking about the other stuff. All right? Judgment for the plaintiff in the full amount.
Thank you,
Good
Your
luck
Honor.
to you. Bye-bye.
I mean, honestly, I just wish that he would have handled it as a man and gave me the insurance information so I didn't have to continue to go through this. But at least I won now, and I can go on and get my arm, try to get it fixed.
Actually, this was a case of negligence of aftercare. If you look at her tattoo, it looks amazing even
You're
right now.
crazy.
She
You're nuts.
is a scam artist, and
You don't get
the last
MRSA
time she
from the
got money
sun, Carlos.
was through a scam. So it's just negligence of aftercare. You know, this has never happened to me before in 20 years. So she took advantage of not signing the consent form, and
That's
that
your
she could
fault.
get
Do your
money out
job
of it.
correctly.
She knew she could get money out of not signing the consent form.
Plaintiff Lisa Cobbs dated the defendant, but she claims on 2 occasions the defendant came to her job and caused a scene, which led to Lisa getting fired. Lisa suing her ex-girlfriend today for rent and breach of contract. Defendant Shanita Brown says while dating Lisa, she not only gave Shanita a black eye when she punched her in the face, but she also vandalized Shanita's car. She's countersuing for the damaged vehicle.
Start with you.
Well, me and Shanita, we were friends for about 4 years before we started dating in 2018.
You started dating in 18?
Yeah, we started dating in 2018, but 2019, we moved into an apartment. I started to see how immature, irresponsible she was. Like, we would always get into it over Shanita's ex-girlfriend calling, texting, asking for things. So one time we got into it so bad that she came to my job at a fast food restaurant.
She did.
Shanita
Defendant.
did. Came to my job at the fast food restaurant, and she sat in a drive-thru for literally 11 minutes where no one could order their food. She was just holding up the line. So my manager threatened to call
What was she
the police.
saying? You all were arguing
left.
back and forth for a while?
I took the headset off. I never listened to what she was saying. I let them handle it.
Could have been ordering.
So
You didn't listen. She could write.
yeah, so basically, we would always get into it over her ex-girlfriend calling, texting, asking for things. She was just holding up the line. So my manager threatened to
What
call
was
the
she
police.
saying? You all were arguing
left.
back and forth? Or what?
I took the headset off. I never listened to what she was saying. I let them handle it.
Could have been ordering.
Plaintiff Lisa Cobbs is suing her ex-girlfriend, who claims Lisa assaulted her and vandalized her vehicle.
You all have been going together how long?
We were dating on and off. So 2018, we were getting to know each other relationship-wise.
And you
but-
moved in 19.
Right after like
So within
a year.
that year, her girlfriend hadn't been texting and calling, or you hadn't noticed?
she was.
it?
We always got into it over it.
So why would you all
But-
move in together?
Because
you
I figured we was gonna have the situation under control.
figure you could watch her and make
Right.
sure she don't call.
That's why we were moving in together. So 2019, once we moved in together, we were always getting into it. So we decided we were just gonna leave it alone. Basically, we were just gonna be friends. She would still pick me up and drop me off to and from work, which she didn't. So one day she left me stranded, and I went and bust the windows on the car and put it on flat. So the next day, she came to my job acting really wild, knocking over cups and screaming, telling me to come outside to fight. My manager was fed up. She called the police, and I got fired.
Let me hear from you, ma'am. Give me some background here.
Well, when me and Lisa started dating, she knew how immature I was because we had been talking for a while, which I told her, like, none of these things are gonna change. I'm young, you know my age, I know your age.
None of what things?
Me laughing, talking to the girls, you know, hanging out, none of that stuff. None of that was gonna change. So she basically was telling me I had to help her pay rent. At the time, I didn't have employment. She didn't put a time frame on anything. She was just telling me like, oh, pay rent when you get it. I'll get a job, work the job a month.
That's a lie.
2 months. 2 months, and I give her what I can, and she was never satisfied with these things. She was also seeing people at the time when we was together, and she also had ex-girlfriends and friends that she was calling best friends, bringing them to the house. So I just felt like I didn't owe her anything. If you bringing people in, you being disrespectful, you not telling me anything, you coming in at different hours of the night, why should I give you anything?
Is that true, ma'am? Because
No.
you acted as if she was the only one that creating suspicion.
No,
and,
it's not true.
She says that you were coming in all times of night, bringing in folks who you pretended to be just friends, and in fact, you had something else going on with them. None of that is true?
No, none of that is true, Your Honor.
Okay, and so let's get to the agreement you all are. Well, first of all, were there any violent incidents?
Yes,
When?
she blacked my eye.
When?
This was around maybe June, July
What happened?
2019. She brought a girl in the house, and I asked her, who is this girl? She was telling me, I think she was intoxicated at the time, and I was too. I was asking her, who is this girl? Why did you bring her home? Why haven't I never saw her before? Oh, stop talking to me. This is just my friend. You saw her before.
That's a liar.
This and that.
Came in
So I poured my
screaming.
cup of water in her face, and she punched me in my eye. I grabbed this stitcher cord, and I hit her with this stitcher cord, and we was tussling outside. Eventually, we both got tired, and we stopped fighting. But,
And they
you
fell
know,
asleep.
You fell asleep on the scene?
like,
That's crazy story. I've heard one. I'm gonna write that down for television. All right. Tell me how you're suing about the rent. What occurred?
Okay, so January of 2019, when we moved in, she agreed that she would pay me $300 a month for rent. So she was staying there from January to July, and she paid me $100 the month of April. So for 7 months, you never paid the $300. You owe me $2,000 for rent.
All right. So how do we get to 5,000 though?
Because in May of 2019, I purchased a 2007 Saturn Aura for $6,200. I purchased it because she didn't have enough at the time. So basically, she agreed to give me back $3,000. Now, if you go to the evidence on page 4, She sent me a text message and said, look, I don't want to keep arguing or being on bad terms with you. I'm reaching out to you because I miss my friend. I do appreciate all the stuff you did to me. No lie, G. You the realest ever been on my team. That's why when I get this bread, I'm going to give you back $3K on this car, and I'm going to throw you some extra bread just because. And she never paid me anything.
Well, she said just because. That sounds like somebody saying, I don't owe you, but I'm just going to give you something just because.
No, she said she was going to throw the extra bread just because.
Okay, yeah. Where is that at again?
It's right in the middle. If you look right in the middle where it says, when I get this bread, I'm going to give you back $3K on this car, and I'm going to throw you some extra bread just because.
Okay.
And if you also look on page 3, as far as the rent, I text her and said, you couldn't even pay your part of the rent. You owe me $300 every month.
Plaintiff Lisa Cobbs is suing her ex-girlfriend, who claims Lisa assaulted her and vandalized her vehicle.
She told you to stop begging.
And she told me, and I'm still not paying what I owe, you fat, dumb AB.
I like that part where she said, well, stop begging. You owe somebody and they treat you like you poor. Yeah. Like you the broke one.
Right. Like I'm the broke
Always
one.
whining.
You know? That's wrong.
Stop begging me for money I owe you.
Right. You can't tell me I owe you
great.
and then tell me to stop begging.
Let me hear from you, ma'am, about the rent and the her begging for some money for a car. Go ahead, ma'am.
With the rent, I did agree and tell her that I would pay some of the rent, but she knew my employment status before we got together. She knew I had no money. I feel like I'm not entitled to pay her anything. If she had me staying there 7 months knowing I was on and off of a job and she wanted these payments. With the car, after that, Lisa came and busted the windows out that car and flattened the tires, which I had to pay for, which is why I'm countersuing her. So I feel like I shouldn't be having to pay her anything.
All right. And you don't think you should pay rent because out of the 7 months? That's what I'm missing. Why shouldn't
I
you
was
pay
putting
rent?
food stamps in the house. I was helping the best I could.
That's not what you said a second ago as the reason. Do you recall the reason you told me first?
Yeah, because she knew my employment was on and off.
Okay, right, and you agreed to do it, but since you were unable to, you don't think you should owe her at all?
No.
Okay, does that make sense to you? Because you know you owe a person, but you're not going to pay because you can't, and so you don't believe you have to pay.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so that's a clear indication that you don't practice good logic or reasoning and that you're clearly confused. And so in that case, I'll go with the person who has direct evidence and who sounds logical in their presentation. And I'll grant you your claim and I'll grant you your $250. She has agreed. She damaged your car. So you're left with $4,750. I believe. We take $250 off. That's the judgments today. Have a good day.
We can still be friends after this. I guess this ends the whole thing.
I'm not gonna be friends with a liar. I'm sorry. I don't want to talk.
You the liar.
I don't want to give you anything.
You the liar,
I don't want to talk
though.
to you.
You're the liar.
I'm
you
done.
don't want to be lying.
I don't have anything else to say.
Plaintiff Gloria Britton didn't know that she had siblings on her father's side of the family until her father's funeral. Gloria believes the defendant is one of those siblings, so she petitioned the court for a DNA test to see if they share the same father. Defendant Raheem Miles says his parents were never in his life, and he was taken into Child Protective Services at a young age. Raheem says he too found out about his estranged siblings at his dad's funeral, so he's eager to learn the results of the DNA test.
Okay, and you all are here for a sibling DNA test. Check on the brother and sisterhood. All right, tell me, give me some background here.
I'm just here to find out some clarity about my background. I'm 51 and I was raised by my grandmother, and I knew I had two brothers and sisters from my mother. But at my father's funeral, my oldest brother, who got murdered, told me that I had other siblings. And he pointed them out to me at the funeral and said they were my siblings. So him and actually Raheem got very close. And when my brother got murdered, then me and Raheem began to like talk and get close also. And, you know, he's been like a great part of my family. He's very supportive. I didn't meet my alleged father until I was about 37, and then he died a year after I met him.
Plaintiff Gloria Britton believes she and the defendant may have the same father, so she petitioned the court for a sibling DNA test.
Sorry to hear about your brother, but how many other folks were pointed out in the funeral that you come to
at that time,
hear?
it was about 4 or 5 siblings that were there.
That you didn't know of? That you didn't know of?
That I never knew of. Exactly.
And you know of how many? The three of you, how many grew up in the same household?
Well, we didn't grow up in the same household, but I knew I had 2 brothers and a sister from my mom.
So that was 3, and then you have 4 or 5 that were pointed out at the funeral. Did you speak to any of them?
I didn't. I didn't at all. My brother really spoke to him because at that time I was still bitter about stuff, really wasn't into really getting to know my background. I was younger then.
What type of stuff were you bitter about?
The fact that I felt like I wasn't wanted by my mom or my dad, that my grandmother gave me a really good life, but I still felt like I didn't fit in or that I was treated differently because I was raised out in the suburb or something like that. So I grew up kind of bitter.
You grew up separate from them, and you say you live with your grandma. Give me the background on that stuff. You were born in
right. We all grew up in different places, but I grew up with my grandmother and my grandfather, but he passed away when I was 12.
You all grew up in different places because your parents had some challenges, or your mother had challenges that she couldn't deal with at that point?
Exactly. So the family members took us and raised us.
Good. And why did you resent your other siblings, though, or your parents, rather? Why did you resent them?
Because I was younger and I didn't understand, because they never came around. I just felt like they didn't love me, but I was hearing that they were spending time with my other siblings, and I was just bitter and was trying to figure out what was wrong with me that you didn't want to come spend time with me or be with me. So I was just grew up bitter. Like I said, my grandma gave me the best life I could ever imagine, but it wasn't the same. No one came to band competitions. No one came to my game. It was just a bitter situation for me.
Let me ask you, were you more bitter toward not having your mother in your life just as much as not having your father, because you're a female or you were a girl? So I'm interested in knowing that, and I'm sure a lot of folks as well are interested in knowing, because Linda raised a young lady, and she, had her father halfway in her life, but her mother, she didn't. And so I didn't know how that really makes a person feel, whether if you don't have your dad, is that different? I didn't have my dad, don't care, never met him, don't miss nothing I ever had. But I suspect that if I didn't have my mother, who I lost at 17, so it traumatized me for a long, long time. I'm just wondering, was there the motherly thing? Go ahead, you tell me. How did you feel about your mother and about your father? Was there different in your feeling, missing them?
There was a different, like you said, with a father, if he was never there, you can't miss something you never had. But I knew of my mom because my grandmother always told me about him. I would see her every now and then sometimes, but I always felt that I was never good enough because I never understood why my mom wouldn't want to participate or wouldn't want me in her life.
How old were you when you came to know that it was an obstacle, obviously, that she couldn't overcome?
My grandmother always talked very well about it. She loves you, she just has issues, is how I was always told. And as a child, I didn't really understand that, and then after I started having kids of my own, I still don't understand how a mother doesn't want to be a part of a child's life. and it affects me. It's just, and I'm 51, and it took me to 40-something. The fact that I felt abandoned or like no one wanted me in their life.
Was it substance abuse?
It was.
Okay, yeah. And, I always have to make the observation that the drugs that they dumped on America in the 80s, the cocaine epidemic, it ruined 3 generations.
Yes.
Of people. And crack was principally used by black people. And it ruined 3 generations. One, it ruined the crack addict. Mm-hmm. Then it ruined the child whom the crack addict abandoned. Then it put significant burden on the grandmother, which is where most of the children had to go and live because one or both of their parents were drug addicted. So that's 3 generations. So you're like not even hundreds of thousands, millions.
Exactly.
Who had to go through that. And I'm sorry to hear that.
Plaintiff Gloria Britton believes she and the defendant may have the same father. So she petitioned the court for a sibling DNA test.
Same thing is happening with the opioid epidemic, which is primarily white. It is also used by African Americans, but the predominant use of opioids is by white folks. And so they're about to lose 3 generations too. Thanks. And no community should have to go through that. Just a word to those who think it's just you. No, you're not just ruining your own life.
Right.
As the drug addict. You're putting an extra burden on the relative that has to take care of the child, and certainly we know that what the child's feelings are. And you're not the only one. All the children feel pretty much the same. They feel abandoned by crack. And so, and it's hard to understand that. And,
especially when you're younger.
Yeah. So let me hear from you.
It makes you a stronger woman, though.
It sure does. Sure does. Yep. Let me hear from you, sir. Give me some background.
Well, I'm from one of the roughest neighborhoods in North Philly. I was born in '84. And, during that time, like you said, the 80s, the drugs and whatnot. So I really never were around my parents, or they was never really there as far as I can remember. And so around the age, I'm going to say 4 or 5, got taken in to like child services.
Hold on. These weren't the parents that she knows to be hers.
We have the same father.
But when you say taken away, that was your mother was different, right?
Yes.
And your mother had a substance abuse problem too? That caused you to be removed. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? You see how devastating that crack was? Sorry to hear that you were denied your parents' participation in your life as well. And how did you grow up? With a relative or foster care?
Foster care. I mean, we went from home to home. And I can honestly say it was bad. Like, it's just something I could never imagine. Like, I could never put my children through that. And I did finally end up with a wonderful family, Took me in, adopted me. The man became like, I consider him my father. Father I always wanted, honestly. And I miss him a lot. He passed away in 2015 of cancer.
How old were you when you came to be adopted by him or live with them?
I came to them, I had to be about 7 years old.
Yeah, he was your father for sure. Yeah, that's the only father you knew, and that was your dad for sure. Sorry to hear you lost him. All right, I've gotten off track, but it just hurts me so much to know that these drug epidemics are ruining 3 generations. You're innocent. You know what I mean? Y'all are innocent. And grandma's innocent. Exactly. So why does she have to suffer because of somebody else's self-destruction? As well with heroin and opiate epidemic now. Same scenario. All right, so I got to say all that. And let me hurry up. And you folks ready for the results?
Tune in tomorrow when Judge Mathis will reveal the results of today's paternity test.
It was crazy because like on one side of the funeral, there's a group of people. Then, you know, the side I'm standing on is a group of us. So the only siblings I was used to is the ones, you know, I came up with before we all got separated. And one of my older siblings was the one that was like, do you see them over there? And me and my youngest sister was like, yeah. And she was like, that's y'all other brothers and sisters.